Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Parintam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sabha Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanantam Satguru Pranatoshmaham Om Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. Welcome, my friends. We are here to meet again around possible questions relate to Vedanta. Otherwise, we can go back to our big picture and finish up on Bhakti. So let's begin with questions, if any. Anybody has a question to contribute? Lynn, nice.
Good morning, Arlindo.
Good morning.
Here's my question. I've been listening to Swami P's 40 verses on Nididhyasana, and the last one he did on Upasana, very lovely. And it sort of fits with my question. He says he has this distinction between junior students and senior students. And he said repeatedly that you don't do Nididhyasana until you're almost Jnananishta, Shravana, Manana, totally resolved. But I don't know. I've heard you say that they kind of, there's not a strict demarcation. So is that just a very classical, traditional, ashramic kind of understanding that Westerners, can you clarify for me?
Yeah. Well, we begin with having to understand the meaning of the word Nididhyasana. So Nididhyasana literally means assimilation. You hear, you reflect, and then you assimilate. Okay. So what is to do what is to do Nididhyasana that one has to wait? I think Nididhyasana is the final click of understanding in regards to the several logics as presented by the Vedantic text, okay, with the help of a teacher. So it's the final click of understanding that puts to rest any doubt or suspiciousness in regards to what the scripture is stating, okay? So this Nididhyasana is small lights that we all understand because we go through this experience that it becomes clear here, it becomes clear that. So how can we separate it from our manana, from our reflection, contemplation? If Nididhyasana, assimilation is direct connect with your work to contemplate. Of course, sometimes you contemplate, and then when you're in your shower, and then you are singing in your shower, and then the click about Vedanta comes into your intellect. It could happen as well, but anyhow, it is direct connected with your effort to understand, to your reflection, your contemplation. So this is the official, literal definition of the word Nididhyasana, you know. So a lot of people may get frustrated with the idea of assimilation of the teaching, and that may be counterproductive in the sense that you begin listening, and then you do some work of reflecting upon, and then immediately you don't have all the qualifications, the subtlety of intellect power and intensity of effort, dedication, yeah, persistence, and it becomes very intense, the desire to really understand directly and immediately. So if you don't have these different qualifications, the individual may jump the gun and immediate it says like, okay, so Vedanta is not working because I heard, I did some work and I understood it, but it did not transform my life. So therefore, the tradition is very careful. And as I have mentioned before, something that I heard directly from the words, from the lips of Ramji, is that in the past, the Dayananda tradition used to have some few things to say about Shining World teaching style, because they used to criticize, saying that James is going around teaching the final teachings for people who are unprepared for that. Okay, so some of you may have heard me saying about that. Huh? So if you look from that traditional structure that the person has to be there for years and years and years, and then only later on he gets the more sophisticated, the more advanced senior students teaching, you know. And then we may say, yes, so Nididhyasana, it should come a little later, only when you come into listening to the final teachings that helps us to discriminate free, limitless consciousness from the inquirer, from the intellect of the inquirer. So that final discrimination between consciousness and the mind and the intellect, it requires the development of certain qualifications. So, and then they may say like, so if you present everything up front, and then people are going to be frustrated, and that's what I hear from from what you say, you know. So the Swami says like, oh, it's better you wait, don't build up your Nididhyasana, you know, as an expectation about the full assimilation that's going to transform your life, unless you have done a lot of Shravana and Manana, because Nididhyasana is a natural byproduct. It's a natural byproduct that builds gradually until it really transforms one's life, right? So, but other notions about Nididhyasana came about, you know, more practical. So Nididhyasana as remembering the teachings again and again, and then putting it to work against certain, you know, ignorance that surface in our day-to-day, moment-to-moment. So this is application of the knowledge, but for that, the knowledge has to be very deeply printed in our intellect, you understand? Otherwise, we may do like I used to do in the past. I used to have bad reactions and feeling emotional disturbed. And then I used to run to my books, spiritual books, and start reading immediately Nisargadatta or Ramana Maharaj. And then I would somehow correct that tendency, you know, of seeing things from a standpoint of ignorance, of duality. So we need to have these teachings very clear, always present, free from doubt, so that it can work for us. And this work for us, it comes naturally as this teaching, as this knowledge is properly integrated, digested, you know, and internalized, and to the degree that it's always available. So, what is Nididhyasa? It's an effort to make this knowledge alive in my mind. I like this expression. Your knowledge has to be alive in your intellect. So, an effort to keep this knowledge alive, offsetting ignorance as it surfaces. This is a way to present Nididhyasana. And then we have seen some other people suggesting Nididhyasana as, for example, getting requalified. But the development of qualifications, this was a suggestion from Swami Dayananda. So if it's not producing naturally this clear assimilation, which does not require further effort, and then it means your Nididhyasana is requalifying. But as we know, requalifying is not really Nididhyasana, but it is preparing for the assimilation, you understand? So these are all words and depends on the angle. My angle is that Nididhyasana is, it can come on the first stage as we listen to the teachings. If we are highly qualified, we assimilate right away. And then there we go. In one shot, we got all the three levels, the Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. Yeah. So for some other people, we have to do several years on those two before we come to the doubtless understanding of the teachings in a way that it fructifies as a transformed life, a transformed personality, and so on. A person becomes wiser, of course. So I don't like to present a clear distinction. And another thing we have to understand in the lifestyle of James' teachings is that he was a householder, he was a traveler, and he did not want to stay in the ashram and being part of the tradition structure in that way. So when I met Shine World and James, so I like the slogan that they used to present at the time, that we teach traditional Vedanta in a non-traditional way. So what it means, it is the essence of the teachings, but it's presented in a different way, and it's mostly online, and to anyone who is prepared to take it and to benefit from it. You understand? So I used to say, like in the Shine world, we throw the teachings on all levels, and whosoever is prepared to catch that ball, it's going to be benefit. So as opposed to no, you cannot have access to this text or that text because you have to do another 2 years on this or that, you understand, or mantras or something like that. I remember James saying that some of the people who studied with him would tell him that, oh, I did 3 years there in Dayananda's ashram, and I haven't studied anything as advanced as I'm getting here from the seminar of yours in Tiruvannamalai, because they are traditional, they present it traditionally, I mean, you have to stick around, and then we make sure that you are prepared. And they have a point there. But when we look into the Western societies and the householders we have in the West, nobody has time to stop doing what they're doing and go for 5 years in India to go through such a program. So what is the other alternative? One of the other alternatives is just present the entire body of knowledge, like Shiny World is a huge library. So you present it to everyone, you understand? And whatsoever people will do with it, it is their karma. Because of course, when you present it all together like that, some people are going to say, okay, I got it and I am enlightened, and then they are going to take the final teachings, of this entire teaching methodology and say, yes, Aham Brahmasmi, I am the great, powerful Brahman, and, and I am free. So there is a lot of room for people unprepared to superimpose Nietzsche insight. There is, but there is a lot of room for people who are prepared to benefit, people who cannot really stop their life to go back to go to an ashram in India to do 5, 10 years, 15 years, you understand? And not to say about the people who are more qualified and mature, that they may get it after a few years of association with Shiny World, for example, So there are many things we need to consider, and that's why I have no criticism in regards to the teaching style of Shine World. You understand? Although I have a great appreciation to the teaching styles of our swamis in India, but I understand that a lot of Westerns that do not have a taste for that. There is some Sanskrit in there, and they move too slow. And the Western people usually they don't have that much patience, and so on. I don't know if it covers your question.
It does quite beautifully and makes me feel a lot more settled about that, because as you describe it, it's what seems to be my experience of it, that it's organic, it's natural, it just happens as it happens when it happens. And I was wondering, maybe Swami P he's in India, and maybe that concern
about
for
Swami T or Swami P?
Swami P,
Okay.
Paramarthananda. Maybe because he teaches in a kind of an ashram kind of situation, that there's a concern for the purity of the teaching, and having his disciples who may become part of his ashram really have those prakriyas down so that they can teach them correctly. That could be one of the reasons that they are so strict about. He seems to be strict, but at the same time, here he presents the 40 verses online for everybody. So
he broke away from the structure of the tradition when he decided to not take a position in Dayananda's ashram. So the story here is that he was given, because he was the most brilliant student of Swami Dayananda, he was offered to be a head there or something, the big guy. And he said, no, thank you. I like only teaching. I don't like to managing such a big structure like that. And when he did that at that time, and then Dayananda said, okay, and then go back to your city, which is Madras. That's nowadays is called Madras, Chennai. So he went back there and he teaches, and there are thousands of hours of teachings available to anyone in the internet, to anyone. It's all audios, but now they're beginning a little bit of videos. So he's doing the same thing. He's just giving it out and then leaving the rest to Ishwara. Ishwara is going to do, its work. Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome, Lynn. Anything else?
It seems to me, Arlindo, the way I see it, more or less, is Manana is dealing with our intellectual doubts, and Nididhyasana is more like dealing with our emotional doubts. So we can know things on an intellectual level, and at this point, we start actually emotionally unwinding them and dealing with them. And this to me is Nididhyasana, in which case, it does almost work on a step level. We have to understand it before we can process it.
Did you get this insight on your own, or you read it somewhere?
It basically, it came to me some time ago, that, and then I actually did read a little bit in the Bhagavad Gita about it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the angle as well, one of the angles that Swami Paramarthananda presents it, because we get this knowledge intellectually, and then we study, we contemplate, reflect, and so on, and then until this knowledge transforms our emotional personality. So you probably heard me saying that, paraphrasing Paramarthananda, until this knowledge becomes a direct, clear, and doubtless knowledge in a way that burns, a huge load of stupid vasanas. And then once emotional personality is transformed, because it begins in the intellect, but it has to spread to the causal body and has to spread to our mind, which is the gate through which we receive our prarabdha karma. So the mind needs to be transformed. And this is another way to understand assimilation of knowledge. Assimilation of knowledge is when this knowledge fructifies to benefit also the mind, the one that feels and receives the results, the adversities, the way we'll respond to the receiving side of our personality, the mental side of our personality, rather than the ego side, the doer. We have these two sides. So it needs to transform the doer of the actions and the receiver, which is the mind. You understand? The mind, the receiver that tends to overreact with fear before big adversities, you know. So and then comes with strong reactions and so on. And then sometimes the individual feels like, oh my God, I'm not enlightened, I'm not free, I'm not, self-realized because I have some reactions, So none of these reactions is really determinant, of one's hard and fast self-knowledge. But these reactions, as Swami Paramarthananda presents often, should become less and less frequent, and the emotional reactions, negative reactions, should become less intense. So frequency, less intensity, and also when it happens, you have recovery time which is faster. So it is frequency, intensity, and recovery time. So this is to illustrate that, even yanis may have strong negative reactions here and there, and sometimes they are involved with, sometimes they are playing with it, but regardless, it is the personality that is being purified in the process of retention of this hard and fast self-knowledge. So you are dealing with difficult situations, and you respond with more balance emotionally, your emotional personality, and you, even if you sometimes respond with irritation or even anger, you recover quickly. So definitely it is a sign of assimilation of the knowledge. In fact, Swami Paramarthananda goes to the extent, it's that kind of double message or signals. In one hand, in one page, he says that self-knowledge has nothing to do with your personality and the degree of purification of your personality. And then in the next page, he comes and says, so this self-knowledge is only really, truly assimilate to the degree that it transforms your emotional personality, because there is a very fine line there, because it does not really determine your self-knowledge, because even if you're still under the pressure of negative vasanas, self-knowledge, when it's clear and hard and fast, it allows the young to say, it doesn't matter, it does not affect me, it does not make me feel bad, and I don't own that. And furthermore, I'm none of these negative vasanas that are still surface. But overall, the fructification of this self-knowledge is a personality which is more pure, more balanced, more dharmic, and more beautiful, So it's the two sides, because knowledge is knowledge, but even this knowledge has to deal with the configuration of everyone, each one of ours body-mind construct, and in which our humanity, sometimes surface, which is not going to cancel our self-knowledge, but it's going to give us an indication that, okay, so there are some energies, some angers or irritation that does not affect my certainty of self-knowledge, but it would be better not to have these negative reactions. You understand why? Because it disturbs my mind for a short period of time, disturb the mind of others, and then creates further karma to deal with. No? So it is a
Yeah.
catch. I would say catch. I would say catch 22. You say?
Catch 22.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Is that all right, Claudio?
Yeah, everything's all right.
Good.
Very, very clear to me. I don't know the tradition yet. I only study Vedanta with you, so I like it for the moment. Maybe there are a lot of traditions that or point of views that maybe they don't agree one with each other, but for the moment I feel that I feel drawn here. I engage here, so I continue here, and I will see in the future what happens. And
Vedanta
it's important to know.
yeah, Vedanta is somehow a family, of apparently different teachings or philosophies, under the same umbrella of Vedanta. The most important common denominator is that reality is non-dual. The only reality is consciousness, awareness, that which reveals and illumines everything. And you are that awareness, therefore you are free from your experience. So all Vedanta agrees with that. And then it is important. And then the small difference due to different ways they present it on different time paradigm and so on, in culture, it's more or less irrelevant. So some are going to present with more emphasis on doing things and experiencing the results, and some are going to teach it more on its final stage, in which the rejection of any and all actions are the main point. You understand? So I think that we have a good let's say, uh, sampradaya, in the sense, a signature, no? Of Shine World, which is a good balance. There is room for doing things, Karma Yoga, but the main focus is knowledge. And Karma Yoga is also knowledge, but it has to develop into a certain emotional attitude called devotion. Yeah? So we have knowledge of karma, dharma, and then there is the little concession to meditation, upasana, and then the jnana yoga. So this is Vedanta, nicely designed for the Western society and the Western man and woman, and it's as traditional as it can be. Yes, Ruth.
So I'm understanding my life increasingly as a story, and that I want to make it, a good story, and that's kind of my Nididhyasana in the light of the teaching. It helps me to make better choices, and exercise of free will. Is that a proper, reflection? I mean, I don't see myself so much as the doer, as the experiencer of the karma that that my jiva has created.
So you began saying something that you see your life as a story, a story of your life. So the sum total of all time events, and that which were kept in memory, and then our personalities get wrapped up, and you have it as one of your focus is to create a nice story, to have a good dharmic life.
Well, a better story, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm challenged, for to make better choices, I guess.
Yeah. this is all part of this entire body of knowledge, you know. So even the inquirers who dropped behind, you know, upasana and no longer contemplate much on karma, dharma aspects, because karma and dharma became more or less natural to them. But everybody is is expect to everyone, every inquirer on that level, to make a good life, you know, by responding to the stimulus coming from life, you know, our life history, you know, to take care of the jiva. I mean, to say to take care of the jiva, so that the jiva can be a more pure, more happier, and a contributor, you know, is important before, during, and after this self-knowledge is firm, you know, because it should be there. There is no point in anyone realizing the self and then say like, but I don't care about improving my personality, you know. You hear sometimes James saying that, but he does not really mean that, because I have observed his personality and I noticed that he got better over the years, you know. So this refinement of personality is kind of unavoidable. You understand? It's unavoidable, and it's one of the things we want to enjoy, because after all, self-knowledge serves the purpose of freeing the jiva from actions and results, and as a byproduct, it turns the sufferer into an enjoyer. You know, it's instead of suffering one's experience, one begins enjoying the experience. Why? Because he does not, or she or he does not buy into the fact that the experience is the real source of joy and security, but it is my very nature, my very knowledge in regards to my nature, that is the true source of joy and security. Huh? So everybody wants to benefit from self-knowledge.
Well said.
Huh?
I said, well said. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the story becomes interesting, you know, rather than up and down. It's like, oh, isn't that interesting? How that happened. Yeah.
And it's not boring, huh?
Even the boring is good.
Yeah.
I think the boring is especially good.
Mm.
Peace. It's peace. Yeah.
Yeah, we have two kinds of boring mental attitude. One is a tamasic boring attitude, and another is a sattvic boring attitude. So the sattvic one is good because you are not motivated to do much, but you are not really bored. You are just enjoying, you know, peace and silence and so on, and whatever you need to do, you do. No, it's not boring. I mean, you can see a life of someone that apparently presenting total burden because there is nothing more to be done except to clean your cave. So imagine you are there in a cave in Tiruvannamalai, and all you have to do is to swap the floor in the morning, you know, and then so every day you do the same thing. You imagine, oh my God, what a boring life, you know. But the Swami, the yogi or whatever, may be having a lot of peace and beautiful, exciting in the sense, you know, that he's just shining more and more as he assimilates the beauty of our very nature, you know. So it depends. It's something that we cannot tell by the surrounding, but there is also the Rajasic the Rajasic person cannot experience boredom because he is going to be creating situations in which it has to interact again and again to resolve problems. And he's never really bored. He gets exhausted, but he does not get bored. So we can choose one of those three personalities. Right, Elizabeth?
I think it's right, yes. Like,
Okay. Anything else?
I'm always very careful. I said I'm always very careful
Yeah.
not to get into trouble.
Yeah. We have to be careful. Yeah. Need to be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? I'm grateful for the teaching.
Good. Good. Okay, let's go back to Bhakti Yoga a little bit. We have covered the beginning of it. I did quite an extensive unfoldment of the nature of Bhakti. So we saw it's not something that is independent yoga, as a lot of people believe. Oh, no, I'm emotional, romantic devotee, and my path to enlightenment is Bhakta. So I'm going to be loving my deity, Krishna, for example, for the rest of my life, and that's going to take me to enlightenment or to self-knowledge and freedom. So Vedanta comes and say, no, you're not going to. Bhakti does not take you to freedom unless it takes you into inquiry first. So Bhakti should lead the person to self-inquiry. And as we know, self-inquiry is not just asking, who am I, who am I, who am I? Because the person asking, who am I, is asking because he does not know who am I. So where is that answer going to come if it has to come from you? If you don't have teaching or data, a solid base of analysis of experience, on which to base your question and extract the answer. So it's not going to come to anywhere. You may have some epiphanies. So it's not about that, but Bhakti is a path that serves the purpose of purifying, preparing the mind, as we know. And that's why Bhakti is the other half of Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is made out of Ishvara knowledge. Ishvara knowledge is understanding Mithya, and understanding Ishvara, Jiva, Jagat, and the relationship between these three principles and how it's all connected to consciousness, awareness as well. But fundamentally, Bhakti is not a yoga. It is the attitude that should follow the study and contemplation on the scriptures, on karma, dharma. If it does not follow, the person may have great knowledge, but it's not really a religious person. Religious person is a person who really have integrated God into one's equation of life. So Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, and Jnana Yoga, all of these requires devotion to the individual, to the seeker. Karma Yoga also involves dedicating all actions to the Lord. That is the emotional, devotional, that requires knowledge. If we don't have the knowledge, it's very difficult to develop this attitude. This attitude is, again, a natural byproduct of understanding these three factors, Ishvara, Jiva, and Jagat. So Karma Yoga involves dedication to all actions to the Lord. And of course, the knowledge, the rationale of it is going to allow us what? To accept the results, because we are intelligent people, we follow the logic, we connect the dots. And then I understood that the nature of suffering is the delusional notion that I may control the results of my life, of my actions, So once you looked into a very simple logic as presented by Vedanta, and then with that rationale, you're going to resolve this problem. I have no control, therefore there is no need to be all excited about trying to control what is uncontrollable, uncontrollable. Okay. Karma Yoga involves dedication and accepting the results. Upasana Yoga is about meditation upon the Lord for mental disciplines and integration. This is another beautiful angle to look into Upasana Yoga. So Upasana Yoga is said to be a yoga of discipline of the thoughts, emotions, sense organs of reception, sense organs of action, and some want to control the prana as well. So all these efforts, are going to help the process not only of regulation of the sense organs and sense organs of actions as well disciplining the mind, okay, regulating the mind, but also it's often said to be a great integrator of the different functions of the subtle body. So you don't want to have a huge, beautiful, clear and sharp intellect, and then emotionally you pop with any little adversity, okay? So that popping is going to again and again disturb the mind. So you're going to have to do a lot of vipassana to bring it back to peace. So it's the mind, the subtle body has to be properly integrated, okay? The ego, the mind, and the intellect, it has to be purified and properly integrated, which is also, it is equal to say that my knowledge and my life are on the same page. So I don't have a knowledge and I live a life, as if I don't know what I know. So I have integrated, I have digested, I have internalized the knowledge to the extent that my emotional, intellectual, and egoic personality are beautiful, beautifully integrated, let's say. Jnana Yoga is the highest form of devotion because we are devoted to the highest teachings of Vedanta. So if we are devoted to the final teachings of Vedanta, which requires a lot of development of qualifications, the development qualification requires devotion, love, dedication. When we come to the final stage, so we need to have a huge, love and devotion and dedication, appreciation and willpower, perseverance. So this is bhakti, this is devotion, this is the love. In the end, we have the love for understanding our free, limitless nature. So this is the ultimate bhakti because it's what takes us to the ultimate learning, Vedanta, and come to realize our non-separation from God. Because as we know, meditation, upasana, within the Vedic culture, is never about meditating on an object of meditation other than God. In the West, you may get any ideas. You can meditate on anything. Oh, you want to have a focused mind, meditate on your desire for a new car, this beautiful car that you fell in love with, So meditate on the car because it's going to focus your mind and bring it to one pointedness and so on. No. In Vedanta, in our tradition, meditation is always towards a symbol of God, okay, Ishwara, and we're gonna see as we go here. It's never about not just to meditate on the breath, unless you meditate on the breath, knowing that this prana system is God, present itself as the vital air, the intelligent air that gives life to the body and all body. If you know that is also God, and then your meditation is a spiritual, religious, Vedic meditation, because your object of meditation is God, okay, which is a different angle. And your discovery, your goal is you meditate on God because you want to actualize the paths of God discovery. You heard that there is a creator, and you heard that the creator is the boss here, and it's going to give us, to consider us, the result of our efforts. We can't really control the efforts, but there is this principle that is the sum total of all factors that which corroborates to bring about our Parabodha karma on a moment to moment. So we bring God into our equation, and we want to know God. To know God, we develop love for God. So in the process of God discovery is the upasana, within our Vedic culture. So we know that the object of devotion is similar to the object of meditation. So if you meditate without love for God, and then your meditation is not really a Vedantic meditation. But once you understood God and you developed appreciation to God, and then God becomes the object of meditation, which is a devotion. We cannot talk of loving God without having a clear idea of what God is. The teachings provide 3 dimensions of God, each based on the maturity and intellectual capacity of the seeker. And it's important to understand that when we come to Vedanta, we come to the highest level of understanding of God, because we are there not to extract, to get, to ask, but to dedicate, to contribute, to give to God as the Dharma field, our actions in total conformity with nature's laws, God's laws. So it's a giving, it's not extracting. So Karma Yoga is a high form of devotion towards God, but it begins with a lower one. The first definition of God, any well-designed creation by virtue of its existence have an intelligent creative aspect behind it. Something cannot come out of nothing. As we know, the universe in which we live is purposeful, intricate, and impeccably, intelligently designed. Once we have identified Ishvara as the creator of the universe, not Ishvara, not God as the guy up there, who is watching everybody and is going to reward us or punish us. No, you understand Ishvara as a mature individual. So that's why we came to Vedanta. That's why we understood the Bhagavad Gita, as present from the perspective of Vedanta, not present by the perspective of the Bhaktas. You understand? Once you have identified Ishvara as the creator, we may first imagine him as a very anthropomorphic manner. We ascribe human traits to this universal creator because the only intelligent being known to us is a human being. So we cannot conceive another being which is not incarnated in a flesh and bones structure, Oh no, there is a being who is not embodied in flesh. It's not embodied in an animal or anything, although it may be present as Ganesh and different other bodies, but it's all just stories, mythological stories, to make it easier on a certain period in the history for people to keep contact with these teachings. So this concept of a personal deity, omniscient, omnipresent, cannot be seen. So we place him above the clouds. This personal creator is personified in many forms, such as Shiva, Krishna, Vishnu, and so on. So we have these deities, within the Vedic culture. Even if we see God, we understood God that it's not just someone who is there to reward us and punish us if we don't follow the commandments. But we understand God in a much more, although it is in a basic primary level, but it's much more sophisticated, because the Vedas says that God has three aspects of itself. It is the power that creates, it is the power that sustains, and it's the power that destroys. And that is very nice, because it's no longer one God, although it's a way to make it easy for people to understand God, is understanding that it has three functions, the same way we understand the mind, by analyzing its functions, the subtle body, by analyzing its function. We analyze God so that we get a better understanding. By divine God, we see these three powers, Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the sustainer, and Shiva, the destroyer. When I first got in contact with this notion, I was like, wow, how brilliant. Of course, we see these three powers and operating all the time. So it's a much superior vision of God. And then, of course, we see the Vedic culture, many other representatives or representational symbols of Ishvara who came into existence. According to what? According to what the people was invoking Ishvara for. If people are invoking Ishvara because they want prosperity, and then the Vedas say, okay, no problem. We have a God there, another sales representative of Ishvara, who is very good to facilitating, prosperity. So go and talk to him, offer your prayers to him, and see if he can help you. So according to Jiva's desires, all these deities developed. But this is in the beginning when we see this personal relationship with our God. The second definition of God, when one is capable of progressing one's understanding, the scriptures present a high understanding of Ishvara. First of all, we are told that Ishvara is the creative intelligence out of which the universe was born. And now we are asked to consider the raw material by which the universe was shaped. Any creator can only create something with the raw material. A carpenter creates with the wood and so on. Everything requires material and requires the intelligence, the know-how. So if I understand God to be a builder of the universe, out of what material did God build the universe? And then we understand that God is also the material cause of the universe. And there we have the symbol of the spider that creates its universal net out of itself. So God is the intelligent cause, the material cause. I often throw there the energetic cause because it's out of rajas that it can project, manifest this creation, And God is also the physical material manifest and the subtle manifest universe. Everything is God. So this is a much wider vision of God that very few people can understand it. When I talk to it to some of my friends that have been around in the spiritual world for 20, 30, 40 years, and they got a terrible vasana against the notion that there is God, like people from Rajneesh and other circles, they hate this idea that there is a God. Okay, and then when I try, because we are in a situation in which I have the possibility to share a little bit the Vedantic notion of God, in this basic level. I mean, it's difficult. You say, how can I wrap my mind about that? Being, fundamentally made out of pure knowledge, that out of this pure knowledge brings about the material and the energy and the creation. It's Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, Tamas and Rajas, boom. So how can it sounds good, it's beautiful, but what kind of beings these ones are? And then they leave it aside, they leave it alone. They say, no, it's too much. It's difficult to understand this notion of God because the mind is still not subtle enough. And then even if you understand intellectual, you never developed the Vedic eyes of wisdom, which enables us to see God emotionally, in all aspects of life. Any creator can only create something with raw material. Before the creation of the universe, nothing else existed. Scientists say that prior to the Big Bang, we cannot even conceive of time, space, and matter. Prior to the creation of time and space, when Ishvara alone existed, what was the raw material out of which the creation was made? According to Vedanta, God itself is the material out of which the creation is shaped. So Ishvara is the intelligent, pure sattva, and then it utilizes tamas and rajas and creates the universe. The spider is already covered. Since the whole universe is created out of God, it is fashioned. And the substance out of which it is fashioned. Since the whole universe is created out of God, this means that the whole universe is God alone. So it is created out of God. It's created by the intelligent knowledge. And then it's created out of the raw material, which is God. And then it's projected into existence through rajas. And then we have the material world. And then, of course, God is building to the manifest universe, okay? And we can see it. How can we see it? It's enough to watch science. Science is discovering more and more how everything is so beautifully and perfectly, intelligently designed and sustained and recycled, and everything is in perfect balance and harmony, So it's easy, once you develop that subtle mind, to see God as the entire creation. That means that the whole universe is God and God alone, that God is in every form and aspect of creation. And it's also nice to see God not only by the intelligence, by the little we know about the laws, the laws governing this universe, the laws sustaining this universe. We know very little about science in regards to the laws that sustains this universe. But laws, God is also the laws by which it sustains and it manages this universe. And why I'm saying that? Because from the standpoint of human jivas, we need to understand God's laws, And as we know, the most important is not physics. Most important are the laws, the ethic, moral, and psychological laws, because those ethic, moral, psychological laws are going to have an impact on our intellect. And the better we understand these laws, the more sattvic our intellect will be. Therefore, I will be better equipped to gain this final, clear, doubtless understanding. There can be no division, just as no part of the ocean can separate from its essence. The essence of the ocean is water. What is the essence of the universe? Is God. Why? Because Sattva Guna is the substratum of Mithya. Of course, the substrate, the final absolute substrate of Mithya is consciousness, awareness. But once it somehow enters into association with Maya, it produces the most subtle energy, which is Sattva. And Sattva is the background. We have consciousness, which is the absolute all-pervasive thing, which is not a thing, which is not energy. It's just existence. It's just consciousness. But consciousness alone cannot really produce the universe unless this consciousness becomes pure sattva, okay? And that is possible only when Maya comes into place and then, makes it in a way that consciousness shines as Ishvara, the pure sattva. And this pure sattva, which is pervaded by consciousness, is going to pervade what? Is going to pervade the other two energies, the other two gunas, because we have sattva, and then out of sattva we have rajas, tamas, and rajas. But rajas and tamas are being pervaded by sattva, okay? So sattva, which is pure knowledge, is the substratum of the manifest world as we know. So, and therefore there is no division. Everything is like the water of the ocean. Ocean is made up of so many different parts, but fundamentally in their essence, everything is water the same way the universe, everything is sattva, God, okay? So at that level, which is a higher level of understanding of God, God is no longer a person, it is really the substrate. It is a universal principle, okay? It is a universal God, okay? So there is no place I need to go to seek God. So, and then the individual rests into the search to meeting God, okay? There is no place I need to go and seek God, because now I can see God in everything, in everyone, in every situation. So where are you going to go to find God? Oh, I'm going to wait for this pandemic so that I can go to Tiruvannamalai to see God in the ashram of Ramana. No, we know that God is here pervading everything, shining as pure knowledge, shining as pure life, sentience, and even all the inert objects. So we develop this wisdom to see God in everything. Therefore, you do not need to go any place to seek God, because it is already everywhere, in everything, in every situation. So this, of course, is the second level of understanding God as the substratum of mitya, meaning to say pure sattva, out of which the raw material and the energies and the universe come from, okay? So next week, if we get back into this text, we're going to look at the third definition of God, okay? Which all of us know it is the most subtle of the subtle. It's the most subtle. It's much subtler than sattva guna, okay? Because it is something that was before Maya brought about these three energies, okay? So does anyone have anything to say?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okie dokie. So we meet again next Monday. Ishvara willing, of course. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudashate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, my friends. Arrivederci. We meet again soon. Bye-bye. Bye, Elizabeth. Bye, Lynn. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Arlindo.
Bye.
Make
Bye,
good.
Arlinda.
Stay safe and well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.